world, it is Sheila, and today is a requested video about ISFP and ESTP relationship. So I am like 90% sure my husband is an ESTP. I've been analyzing every little thing he's done for the last 6 months and processing it all, and I'm 90% sure ESTP. I thought it from the very beginning. Well, I had him take, online tests, and I don't put much, credence into those tests. But like in the very beginning, I'm like, oh, take this test. And he came out ESTP, and then I was reading about it. I was like, oh yeah, that total stereotypical ESTP to the max. Like, textbook. And then so I've been like analyzing all his personality and all the functions, and when I got into OP, trying to parse everything out with that. And in OP, I would say he is MF, SEFE, play, consume, blast, sleep. I've been tossing the last few animals around, like, he is for sure, hands down, play first. He's an Enneagram 7 wing 6, and he is an Enneagram 7 on crack. He's 50 years old. He just turned 50 a couple months ago. Last month? What is it? October? Whatever. He's 50. So, and he has more energy than most 14-year-old kids nowadays, because most 14-year-old kids are sitting playing video games all day inside. He's still, like the other day, hilarious. He was gonna go out and do something productive, and next thing I know, he's sending me pictures of he climbed some oak tree out in our back property and is just sitting up there watching for deer, and like decides to climb a tree for fun. I'm like, okay, so I guess you're not gonna go clean the garage, you're gonna go climb trees instead. I mean, he's just a total playful kid, and it is one of my favorite things about him. Just, neither of us take life very seriously. We are always looking for the fun, the adventure, just the bright side of things in life. Just, yeah, we don't take life too seriously at all. And we share that love of that. So let's see. I first met him when I was 19. And so he's 3 years older than me. So he was what, 22, something like that. And my girlfriend was dating this guy, and she brought this guy home with his friend, and it happened to be Greg. And I was like, oh, who's this guy? Because the minute I met him, I was like a moth to a flame. If he would have said, hey, let's run off to Vegas and go get married, I would have hopped the plane with him and went and got married that night within 5 minutes of meeting him. That was what I was just, yeah, so smitten with him. And a few years later, my girlfriend told me that I had said the night I met him, I told her, I don't remember saying this, but she told me that I said, I'm going to marry that man someday, I told her. And I don't doubt I said it, because probably something I would say, and that was just the way I felt about him. Instant attraction. Now, he, on the other hand, was a typical 22-year-old player. He was not ready to settle down with anyone. So we kind of like dated, off and on. He'd call me up, we'd go out, and then I wouldn't hear from him, and then I'd hear from him, and I was just like, just happy to spend time with him, so I just didn't care. I was just like, well, if he calls, he calls. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And then we went our separate ways. And then my girlfriend was still friends with the guy that they were friends with. And Greg asked her, he's like, hey, what's Sheila up to? And she's like, well, matter of fact, her and her boyfriend just broke up, and she's like, oh, do you think she'd mind if I gave her a call? And she's like, no. So she gave him my phone number, and then she calls me up. She goes, guess what? Guess who was asking about you today? I was like, who? And she's like, Greg. I'm like, no way. And I was like, you know, all giddy. She goes, yeah, I gave him your phone number. And I'm like, oh, do you think he's going to call? And I was just so excited that he might be coming back into my life. And what was I? I was 24-ish at that time. And so he called, and we went out, and one of our first dates, I don't know if it was the first, but like one of our first ones that we went out and ate, we went to like this bar restaurant. We ordered, you know, sandwiches and fries, and he goes, okay, I'm going to get this out of the way. And he takes his French fry, he dips it in ketchup, and he smears the big ketchup fry on his white t-shirt. And he is like, I was probably going to spill on myself, so I just got it out of the way. And I remember sitting back, like across the table, looking at him with this red ketchup smear on his shirt, going, I love this man. Who does that kind of stuff? Who on a first date goes out and smears ketchup all over them? I'm like, I need this man in my life because he was hilarious. He is hilarious. And so, yeah, we got married about a year later, and what I think brought us together and keeps us together, my favorite thing about us as a couple is our love of SE and adventure and doing things and just like SE. Yeah, I mean, we just are the gatherers of experiences and fun in life. And so like a typical date before we got married would be, we'd go out like, you know, 11 midnight at night, climb a fence at a golf course, hop over, run around this golf course, collecting golf balls, maybe making out, just having fun and doing crazy crap. And that was just our fun. I mean, we didn't need to go to movies or dinners. I mean, we enjoy that kind of thing, but we just liked, you know, biking and walking and doing crazy stuff. And so the love of SE brought us together and has kept us together, and we still love doing crazy stuff together. Well, when I say crazy, he prefers really crazy. Like, he's much more of a daredevil than I am. I'm pretty daredevilish compared to some of my friends, but compared to an ESTP, I'm not. I think because he's got his NI dead last and my NI is third, I can kind of see, you know, the outcome of an action. Like if we're gonna go do something crazy, I will be like, oh, but what if B happens? And I'm kind of planning for B to happen, not just A. And he is like only A. He does not think about plan B at all. He's like, psh, nothing's gonna happen bad. And I'm like, but what if, you know, this blah, blah, blah. And he's like, eh. So I dial him back, and then he dials me forward a little bit. So we balance each other really well with the outcomes. I keep him alive and he keeps me having lots of fun. And yeah, and I've kind of had to take the role in the relationship of being a little bit more structured because he is so not. And I'm not naturally either, but I'm the one that, you know, pays the bills. I'm the one that fills out the paperwork. I'm the one keeping track of the bank account. I'm the one scheduling doctor appointments. I do all that. I hate it. I don't like doing it at all, but I know he hates it 1,000 times worse than I hate it. So I'm willing to do that, where I hate working. And he hates working. Well, I shouldn't say he hates it, but does anyone really love working? He does. He loves his job. But I get to stay home and take care of all this stuff and run the house and the farm and homeschool the daughter. And he goes out and works a laborious job. He's in construction, and like the technology side. And, he's up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, depending where he has to work. And he just doesn't even think about it. He just can turn off the emotional and physical demands of life and a job, and he just does it. Where me, if I had to get up at 4 o'clock every morning, I'd be like, it's so early, I hate mornings, why do I have to do this? And I'd be much more whiny about 4 a.m. But you don't hear him complain, you don't hear him whine. He just does what he has to do to be a good provider, to be a good husband, to be a good father, and he is amazing when it comes to that. I mean, I just am so thankful that he is such a hard worker and just does it without complaining at all. And he is so much fun. I know people at work, they all, if you meet Greg, well, he's a little much for some people, but almost everybody loves Greg. He brings such energy and fun to every situation, and he is a total jokester, and he very much reminds me of Terry Crews. If you guys know who Terry Crews is, he very much has that, or Dwayne Johnson. Those two people, he very much has that energy and vibe of those guys. Like I said, he's Enneagram 7 on crack, and he's just has so much energy. I don't know. I think he probably would have been put on some ADD meds back in the day, but in, early 70s, kids just were diagnosed with that kind of stuff. They were just, his mom always said the doctor just called him a spirited young child. But yeah, he was constantly bouncing off walls, and yeah, and he still bounces off walls. If I don't keep him like somewhat focused, like, hey, we're doing this today, he'll just be like left to his own devices. Who the heck knows what he's going to get into? Fun, but it might not be, what I wanted him to get into. So we balance each other really, really well. Now where we butt heads is I'm on the FITE axis and he is on the TIFE axis. So our thinking and feeling, completely different. Completely different. And there's so many times where he comes from one way of thinking, I'm coming from like my FI, and I'm like, but, and he's like, well, that doesn't make sense, like logically, like, well, I don't think he even says that. I'm the one that's like, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand. What do you, so we're always butting heads when it comes to that axis. Our SE and NI, heaven together. Our thinking and feeling, yeah. But once we explain our reasons or our feelings, then I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I see where you're coming from. And he'll be like, oh, I feel you, dude. He'll say something like that for me. And I'm like, okay. But sometimes we can just butt heads when it comes to that. But we always work it out. We always end up working it out. And, like marriage, it is a big roller coaster. There's going to be lots of times you're just like on top of the hill, like just fun and all great, and then you're like, meow, come crashing down, and you're like, ah. And but I think the passion of our SE, or just our love for each other. I mean, when we fight, we can fight, but then when we love, we love. And so it's like, and we always talk about the 90-10 rule in a relationship. As long as 90% of the time we are loving and only 10% we're fighting, then we're all good. I can handle that 10% of the time where I just want to like wring his neck and he wants to, you know, probably wring my neck. But we get past that, and then it's just all good. And after 22 years, it definitely gets easier, but we still have some knockout drag out arguments. I don't know, the couples that are like, oh, we never argue. I'm like, are you guys alive? Hello, how do you not argue? But maybe they don't argue, but then 5 years later, 7 years later, 10 years later, they're in divorce court. But I think a good healthy argument is needed every once in a while to get it all fleshed out. But all right, well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about an ISFP and an ESTP relationship and how it has worked for us. I don't know. I think any relationship has a potential of working or not working. It depends on your growth mindset, how much you want to make things work, how you're just constantly keeping things working. Because, yeah, it could get boring and stale and you can get complacent. But if you wake up every morning and fight for what you have, and value and appreciate what you have, then it's going to just work out. You have to always just think about what brought you together, and it's still there. That spark's always going to be there. Unfortunately, for some people, you know, it does almost completely blow out. And, you know, stuff happens, but I don't know. I'm not going to speak for other people's relationships at all, because that's just not the way I roll. But I don't know. I think an ISFP could make any relationship work with anyone. It's just both parties have to want to make it work. All right. Enjoy your day. Thanks. Bye.